All right, here we go. We are hanging out with a bit of a different kind of a deal today and company that is outside of what we normally do, but we're going to learn some stuff because this is not really our forte here. We don't really know too much about rare sats and runes and all those controversial topics that normally our crowd knows nothing about, but for educational purposes, we're going to have some fun here. I'm sitting with Quary, which is from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, in case you didn't know. I'm from that era myself. I should have known that. And I met him at the pitch contest in Amsterdam, where he presented MagiSat. And he has quite an impressive amount of volume and traction, and to build a company that is making well in the six figures a month is pretty impressive, whether you love runes or hate runes. We talk about founder tips and building businesses and getting started in Bitcoin. And you have to give it to him because he has done a tremendous job with just that, building a monster of a business that is growing handily. So let's get into some housekeeping just real quick here. This is their Twitter. It's MagiSat_IO. That's the first Satoshi marketplace. Discover, collect, and invest in the future of Bitcoin with MagiSat. And then their website, of course, which is magisat.io. Now, I don't know anything about a lot of these things here. Okay, you've got these runes and these rare sats and all of these interesting sort of things that hopefully we're going to learn about and chat about here today and get started with. So, without further ado, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us where you're based out of and all of that good stuff.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, I'm Quary. I'm based in Romania. I'm a developer at Core, and I love Bitcoin. I love blockchain technology in general, but especially Bitcoin because, yeah, there's no second best. And I'm the CEO of MagiSat. I founded MagiSat because I accidentally got into rare sats while exploring ordinals, and I'll tell the full story of how I got into ordinals and rare sats. Um, it was late at night in early 2023, and I remember one of my associates giving me a call and telling me about this NFTs on Bitcoin, which we should pay attention to. And of course, these were ordinals. And we immediately jumped on board, learned about ordinals, discovered how they are trading, what are the technicalities behind ordinals. And I remember we inscribed some of these NFTs, and somebody popped into our Discord because we were running a Discord server back then, and explained to me that a few of these ordinals that we have inscribed are in fact inscribed onto rare sats. For the people who don't know how ordinals work, you basically have an indexer that's off-chain that tells you that a particular data that's in the Bitcoin network belongs to one Satoshi, so is associated with a particular Satoshi. And I found out that some of my ordinals were by mistake inscribed on rare sats, and those were pizza sats, which were Satoshis involved in the famous pizza transaction. So that's where it all began. I immediately fell in love with the idea that some Satoshis can be special, because it meant we can have some sort of numismatics for Bitcoin. And I started to investigate all the ways I could get my hands on as many interesting Satoshis as possible. So I started to try and set hunt. Um, that's a practice where you're going to an exchange and deposit and withdraw repeatedly in hopes that you get some more interesting Satoshis after each withdrawal. And after getting a big stash of rare sats myself, I had no place to sell them. And I remember that I was doing this with my associates, and they basically figured out that we need a platform like MagiSat, and there were a lot of people sat hunting and searching for rare satoshis, and they didn't have a place to buy and sell them. So that's basically how MagiSat started, and we were and we were the first player, the first marketplace for rare sats, and nowadays we are the biggest marketplace for rare satoshis.
So I think my data is a little outdated here. When we first chatted with you, you had done over 15 million in volume, and I think that number is over 25 million. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I suspect in Amsterdam was the first time you got the numbers. So a few more months went by since then. And also the pitch in Amsterdam was um, up to speed as of July, I think.
So when you compare this to something like Magic Eden, would you say that they are the main competitor for what you're building? You have a list of competitors in your slide deck here, which I'm going to pull up. But what are some of the differences between what you're doing and someone like Magic Eden is doing?
That's a great question. So the main difference is that Magic Eden is already a very big, well-established marketplace. It's also spread quite thin across multiple blockchains. And the main difference is that we're a marketplace that needs to get a hold of a good market share. And what we do, as opposed to Magic Eden, we are focusing on a niche, and we are focusing on the rare sats market, in which we manage to outcompete Magic Eden. So we're we're trading runes and ordinals and rare sats, but Magic Eden is focused on ordinals and runes, whereas we're focused on rare sats. So that would be the main difference. Aside from that, we're also catering more to pro traders that are also engaging with stuff like sniping and mempool monitoring and stuff like that. So we are more focused on this niche segment of people that uh, are trading more professionally, so to speak, than Magic Eden.
So, I mean, this is pretty impressive traction here with these partners. What exactly do these partnerships look like? And I definitely have a outdated deck here because what you just shared on the pitch video that will be linked below is 25 million in volume. But how
Yeah.
do these partnerships work? I mean, F2 Pool is a miner. How does your partnership with them work? Can you talk a little bit about Sotheby's? Obviously, Xverse is a wallet partner, maybe the only wallet that I know of. But can you go over some of these partnerships here?
Yeah, so they're very different. for example, with Xverse, we pretty much go hand in hand because people that trade on MagiSat usually use Xverse. We also recommend them to use Xverse. In turn, Xverse was the first wallet to support rare Satoshis and would often link to MagiSat for different kind of information about rare Satoshis, etc. Me and Jan from Xverse are good friends, so we got this relationship of mutual promotion whenever possible. As for Foundry and F2 pool, for example, they are miners, they are big mining pools, and you may have noticed that in mempool.space, if you look at blocks mined by Foundry or F2 pool, there's a small output at um, the beginning of each block in which they isolate the first 546 sats from the block reward. And what they are actually doing is they isolate the uncommon Satoshi that gets minted in that particular block. So a lot of miners do this. It's a common practice. It's basically just in case rare sats are getting very, very popular, these miners do this thing and isolate this uncommon Satoshi. F2 pool is looking over our API and has I'm not 100% sure if they are using it now, but they were using our API to auto list the uncommon Satoshi that they isolate, basically. And unfortunately, with Foundry, I signed an NDA, so I couldn't speak more about the partnership, but it's along the same lines. As for Sotheby's, me and Michael Buhana from Sotheby arranged an auction for rare Satoshis, and my job was to find the best sats out there that could go to Sotheby's, because there are a lot of flavors and there's a big variety of rare Satoshis. We're talking from like $1 to like upwards of $2 million. So my role was to find the best sats and also to create some pages on MagiSat that could display more information about these Satoshis that were auctioned at Sotheby's.
So the miners that are sort of running them through that API and checking those sats, how are individuals doing that? I mean, do you have a tool if somebody is a old school Bitcoiner where they would, kind of run some wallets through and extract whatever quote unquote rare sats they have?
Yes. We got a big search bar when you hit our website. And if you put your address there, we basically scan your address and look over your unspent outputs. And if they have anything interesting in there, we'll display it to you. And we'll basically let you know, okay, you got these types of rare sats. We evaluate them based on the current floor price of those said Satoshis. And if you import your address in a wallet such as Xverse, then you can also connect to our website, and we offer the tools to extract those rare sats and keep them in separate UTXOs of very small size, usually 546 sats.
So, okay. So on this competitor slide here, why don't you talk a little bit about the differences? And I don't see Ordinals bot listed here as a competitor, so that's a good sign.
Yeah. So In terms of sniping tools, there's this window of time in which any transaction that's based on partially signed Bitcoin transactions and that's using SIG hash single with anyone can pay, those transactions can be overridden. If you go to the mempool and see a pending transaction that's formed that way, you can basically deconstruct the initial signature and you can fulfill that partially signed Bitcoin transaction with another wallet. Uh, that's some niche activity that you can do pretty much only on MagiSat out of this four platforms. So we offer this mempool tracking, like if something is pending to be bought on OKX or on Unisat or on Magic Eden, you may see the uh, item still listed on MagiSat with a small RBF flag. And that means that it's currently being bought. The transaction is in the mempool, but you still have time to override the transaction to pay more fees and fulfill that buy transaction yourself. And yeah, we offer that as opposed to our competitors. That goes hand in hand with the pro trading tools because if you want to trade ordinals, let's say on a daily basis or in a competitive manner, then you obviously need to also take the mempool into account. And we're the only platform that offers that, the only marketplace that offers that. Ecosystem integrations means that that's not something that we have right now. It's something in the roadmap, but we want to build a system similar to Blur, where you can list from MagiSat on all the platforms. You can cancel your listings and have a very good control over your assets from MagiSat without having to go to this competitors' platforms. Rare Sats is basically just the fact that we and Magic Eden offer rare sats as an asset that's traded on our platform. UTXO tooling, although Magic Eden and Unisat offer a certain level of UTXO control, we pride ourselves with having the best tooling for UTXO manipulation. And we strive to be something not similar, but offer a good percentage of what Sparrow offers on our platform, on MagiSat and on web. And obviously, we also take into account where ordinals are situated in your UTXOs, where you have rare sats, and our toolings allow for UTXO manipulation, including taking into account that you have certain assets that you shouldn't spend on fees or uncontrollably transfer from one address to another.
So non-custodial trading.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yes. So the way marketplaces work is with partially signed Bitcoin transactions. More specifically, let's say you have an ordinal. That ordinal is attached to a specific Satoshi in one of your UTXOs. And the way you trade it is you sign to include that UTXO in a Bitcoin transaction if and only if there is an output in the same transaction with a certain amount of Bitcoin going to an address of your choice. So the seller is basically signing this partially signed Bitcoin transaction that says, I will involve this UTXO that contains my Bitcoin NFT in whatever transaction as long as I get 1 Bitcoin for it, or whatever amount of Bitcoin they're asking. So you sign the transaction, you give that transaction to the marketplace. We store those transactions, those partially signed Bitcoin transactions, and display a listing. Now, whenever a buyer wants to purchase the said item, the buyer also signs the rest of the transaction, basically, sends it to MagiSat's backend, and we compute the final transaction and send it to the mempool.
So you have a pretty impressive cap table right now, and you're in the middle of raising a round, which is it's a pretty challenging time still to be raising funds. So previous investors or investors that you can talk about that have invested in you, do you want to run through some of those big name folks that are betting big on MagiSat?
Yeah. So some of our big investors are Bitcoin Frontier Fund, ran by Trevor Owens. As you may know, Trev is a big Ordinals guy. He's a legend in the ecosystem. We've actually known each other since 2021, and we were competing for some tools related to Ethereum NFTs. It was still something that had to do with sniping. We were building a different software that allowed people to see the best deals on OpenSea, basically. And when Ordinals started to come into the market, we both I and Trevor shifted our attention to Ordinals, and yeah, we joined the Ordinals show pretty much bi-weekly. So we were close to each other. Trevor knew about our business, and we signed up for a Bitcoin Frontier Fund. So they were our first investors. Another important investor that we have is UTXO Management, which is I'm in contact and I'm friends with Tyler from UTXO Management. They were also one of our very early investors. Aside from that, we're happy to have some very well-known angel investors from the Ordinals market. Names like Danny Deasy, for example, which may not be that interesting for you, Mike, but Danny is a big shot in rare sats, in the rare sats market. So he's also one of our angel investors. And yeah, those are, let's say, the most notable investors that we have in our cap table. Aside from that, there are other venture capitals and angel investors.
Cool. So when you look at runes and the beginning of this bull market or where we're at right now in this cycle, do you think that runes are going to go crazy? And I don't have any runes. I've never owned any runes. But just looking at these things that are out there right now and sort of the volume and market caps of these things, what's your kind of outlook on the future for these things? And when I sort this on MagiSat's site based on, market cap, it's a little tough to tell how it's denominated. But what do you feel about where this is going in the future for runes? And, I know that Luc Dajour famously said that Ordinals is an attack vector of 9 on Bitcoin, but runes is only an attack vector of maybe 4 or 5. which I think is quite funny. But where do you see this going?
Um, I don't think runes will succeed anytime soon. Not in the form that runes are in the market nowadays. I think that runes can be a very good tool for Bitcoin companies in the future, uh, but not. They won't succeed like this. Basically, what the market tries to do with runes is imitate Solana for like meme coins and shit coins and stuff like that, and that will not work on Bitcoin because uh, they won't runes won't unlock any of that liquidity, which ordinal folks will brag about. That's stuck into cold wallets and stuff like that. Those people will not engage with runes in this form because I don't think those people are shitcoiners. And I think that runes is an important development, but I think it needs to be used, even if it sounds corny, for utility tokens on Bitcoin, not for shitcoins on Bitcoin, because you have everything you need to be shitcoining on Solana. And I don't think that's like necessary or wanted on Bitcoin. And that's also one of the big reasons that I'm a big proponent of rare Satoshis as opposed to runes. Those are my fungible assets of choice, rare sats, because they're so much more native to Bitcoin. You cannot find rare sats on Solana or whatever, and they make a lot more sense than runes. Runes is just trying to create value out of nothing, whereas rare sats are in fact sats that have already a good history attached to them and some significance. So if people want to uh, play with meme coins, uh, they're better off playing with rare sats because I would argue that in 10 years from now, if you manage to get your hands on some Satoshis from Block 9 sent by Nakamoto to Halfini, in 10 years, those will still be recognized as something special as long as the Ordinals indexer is still around. Whereas your next rune shitcoin will probably die off very fast. But yeah, I do think they can be useful if more DeFi comes to Bitcoin as utility tokens for companies that build on Bitcoin.
So as far as how to actually buy and trade these runes right now, they are on what's the largest exchange where you can buy and sell these?
I think there are some runes listed on OKX, on Gate. Um, I'm not sure if any rune is listed on Binance. Probably not. Actually not. So OKX is probably the largest platform that deals with runes.
So still super early in this world.
Yeah.
And then last question, is there an example of a utility token or use case yet? You know, you're saying that that was probably the best use case for some of these runes. Is there an example of one of these? Because I'm just looking at the list here of dog go to the moon and, you know, pups and all of these type of things here. Is there any of them that are actually utilities?
Liquidium token is a token issued by Liquidium, which is a lending borrowing protocol for Bitcoin. So that's a utility token. And aside from that, I'm honestly not familiar with any big utility token. But I suspect that companies that build on Bitcoin will probably issue a token that will be on Bitcoin. So that's probably going to be runes.
Cool. Awesome. Query. Well, listen, thanks for hanging out and chatting about MagiSat and runes and all of these things that we don't normally talk about here. And I'll leave it at that. And then finally, you're raising $1.5 million, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you've only got a little bit left, right?
Yep.
All
We
right.
already raised 1 million and we got 500K left to go.
Very cool. All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.